we've got a major spoiler for WWE Survivor Series. That's the backstage reaction to Nia Jax's WWE return. Logan Paul gives some love to Dirty Dom at UFC 295, and AEW essentially announces its own version of the G1 Climax. Yes, hello and welcome to the Solo Sunday News here at What Culture Wrestling. Myself, Andrew Pollard. I hope you're well. I hope you're good. I hope things are going hunky-dory for you this weekend. And let's get into some wrestling news, and more specifically into Survivor Series and a major potential spoiler in a story that originated over at pwinsider.com that Mike Johnson and his team over there always do such a great job. And that story is that Becky Lynch is in for a significant role at Survivor Series, where she'll be teaming with Charlotte Flair, with Bianca Belair, and with Shotzi Blackheart, or just Shotzi because they dropped the Blackheart bit, didn't they? Yes, so Becky will be a part of that babyface team. That was, I believe, as of this past Friday SmackDown. And they'll be going in a War Games match up against Io Sky, Bayley, Kairi Sane, and Asuka. Now, Asuka turned heel on Friday, misting Bianca and aligning herself with Damage Control. Kairi Sane, of course, returned last weekend at Crown Jewel, aligning herself with Damage Control, where she gave the assist to Io in her defense of the women's title against Bianca Belair. So that's what we're looking at for Survivor Series, and it's a match that has my attention. Obviously, I would say the rabbit in the room. It's the elephant in the room, isn't it? There is no rabbits in this room. Holy moly, there's a cat next door, but that's about it. But yes, the elephant in the room is that, yes, Becky Lynch is a Raw superstar. So how do you make it work when all the rest of the talents are on SmackDown? There's ways. We'll see how that goes. But the match itself, in terms of lining up the four people, well, the four people on either side, the 8 people involved in total, the War Games concept as well, there's some ingredients there for that to be a cracker of a match. Now, Becky hasn't wrestled on TV since Halloween Havoc Night 1, where she dropped the NXT Women's title to Lara Valkyria in a absolutely brilliant match with a very surprising ending that I think very few of us saw coming. But yes, so the man will be a part of Survivor Series. She has still been featured on Raw in recent weeks. She's been wrestling a couple of house show matches as well, so it's not like Becky's on the shelf or anything. But yes, that'll be fun to watch, a Survivor Series, which is coming up in, 2 weeks' time, November the 25th. So 2 weeks as of yesterday. And moving from one member of the ladies roster in WWE to another, and that is Nia Jax. Now, this is a report that came from, it was a Q&A session Sean Ross Sapp did over at Fightful Select. Again, great work that the guys at Fightful do. And the subject of Nia Jax came up, and essentially what the mood was like about her return to the company. And the initial reaction backstage to her return was, what was he termed here? Eye rolls. There was a couple of eye rolls from talent, is what Fightful were given. But in the time since then, at least one of the people who was giving the eye rolls has praised Nia for her general work, her ring work, for not hurting anybody, which, while that is praise, it's kind of like, that's kind of the basics of your job there. But yeah, for not hurting anybody and for being in better shape than previously. Now, of course, rightly or wrongly, Nia Jax, somebody who, during their previous run with the company, garnered a reputation of being unsafe. There was obviously the infamous, famous incident with Becky Lynch, where Nia busted Becky's face ahead of the 2018 Survivor Series, which that in itself would play a key role in kickstarting the whole getting the ball going on the man character. And then there was also that really gnarly incident with Kairi Sane and ring steps and the head busted open, and just like, that was not pretty at all. But it seems like Nia's doing okay backstage. People are getting on with her. That's always cool to see. And now Nia Jax been September she came back. I believe it was the September 11th. She came back on that episode of Raw, attacked Raquel Rodriguez, attacked Rhea Ripley, was part of the 5-way match for the Raw Women's title at Crown Jewel. So she's got herself a nice little spot there on the roster. Of course, we saw her in the backstage. Was it this week or last week? There was that backstage interaction with Becky Lynch where they brought up the incident when Nia busted Becky's face. And then Becky kindly pointed out that, after that, I went on to headline WrestleMania, win the main event of WrestleMania, and you got fired. So it looks like they're sowing some seeds again to do something with Becky Lynch and Nia Jax at some point down the line again. And I imagine at some point down the line again, we'll get to see more from Logan Paul and Dominik Mysterio. Yes, they've kind of become on-screen buddies due to their mutual dislike of that deadbeat dad, Rey Mysterio. Yes, the man who Logan Paul defeated for the US Championship at Crown Jewel last weekend. And Logan Paul, he's a busy guy. And last night from Madison Square Garden, UFC 295, Logan Paul shown there in the front row, US title over his shoulder, and he just held up his phone with a nice little shout out. Literally just said, shout out to Dominik Mysterio. He did spell Dominik wrong. There's no C in that one. But yes, we can. Well, what's a spelling mistake between best buddies? So yeah, that happened after the Tom Aspinall and Sergey Pavlovich fight for the, no spoilers here, but that was for the interim UFC heavyweight title. Just as is often the case with UFC and with WWE. After that fight, the camera pans to the crowd. You see Stipe Miocic is there. You see Logan Paul. You see Donald Trump. But hey, whatever. Let's move away from that topic. Logan Paul and Dirty Dom's bromance continues to rumble on. And something else that'll be rumbling on very shortly. I believe it is the 22nd of November. So yeah, again, in like 10 days' time, is what is known as the AEW Continental Classic Tournament. Yeah, well, look at this. AEW, another month, another tournament. Just what we need. But no, joking aside, I am joking, although I do feel that AEW revisits tournaments way too often. But joking aside, yes, this one has my attention because it's going to be AEW's iteration version adaptation of New Japan Pro Wrestling's G1 Climax. This was announced on Collision last night by Tony Khan and Bryan Danielson. And yes, the Continental Classic Tournament will commence on the 22nd of November episode of AEW Dynamite. It will be a tournament that's split into two blocks. Again, pulling inspiration from the G1. Each block will have 6 wrestlers in who will fight each other with points on the line for wins and whatnot. And then this bit hasn't actually been said, but I'm just presuming this is the case because that's what the G1 does, where then you have the top person in each group, the one with the most points at the end of it all, go on to face each other. And there we go. Shazam, you have a winner of the Continental Classic Tournament. Now, this will play out for the next few weeks. Like I said, starts on the 22nd of November episode of Dynamite. It will be judging by the graphic show, and it will take place across Dynamite, Rampage, and Collision, and it will culminate at World's End, the pay-per-view on December the 30th from Long Island, New York. The first person announced as being a part of this tournament, that would be Bryan Danielson, the American Dragon. Yes, some people were thinking, like, how long is he going to be out for? Is he going to be able to make that Wrestle Kingdom match with Okada, which, I mean, that's lined up and given a go. that's the challenge has been thrown down and accepted for that match, the rematch. But yeah, Danielson is seemingly going to be ready to go before January, before Wrestle Kingdom. And you're going to think if he's obviously cleared for this tournament, then he'll be wrestling at least 5 matches in your group. And Danielson might even go on to win the whole thing. And with Bryan Danielson, he's talked about for years, even when he was back in WWE in interviews, he'd talk about always wanting to be in the G1 Climax for New Japan, because it's just this intense wrestling tournament that just, it's heavy stuff, the G1. It's one of those tournaments where it kind of almost becomes, it's just so hard to, not necessarily so hard to keep up with, but it's so hard to watch fully, properly, because there's just so much wrestling. And in addition to other normal wrestling program that's going on with, say, AEW and WWE. But yeah, the G1's a special tournament, and it's not been announced yet what the prize will be for the person that wins the Continental Classic Tournament. But with the G1, historically, you get a shot at the IWGP heavyweight title. So maybe there'll be some incentive. Or maybe it'll just be for a dynamite ring or whatever. Yeah, I don't know with that. But yeah, hopefully there'll be some nice lucrative prize at the end of it. And this segment also as well was somewhat bizarrely used to announce Bryan Danielson for All In next year. So an event that's, like 10 months away, which I don't know, seems a bit of a long way out to confirm that Danielson will be at All In, because a lot of things can happen in the time before now and All In. And if you're promising Bryan Danielson as something happens, say, maybe he gets another injury and he's not there, then you look a little bit foolish when you've promoted him this far in advance. But I am totally expecting and hoping and wishing and praying to all of the wrestling gods that next year's All In London at Wembley Stadium will be Bryan Danielson versus Nigel McGuinness. It's happening. It's happening. I really hope it. I'm going to be so disappointed if it doesn't happen. Just McGuinness on Collision commentary is absolutely gold. Just throw in any kind of shade possible he can towards his long-time rival. It's brilliant. It's great. Nigel McGuinness is great. Whether he's calling matches or whether he's back in the ring. But yes. Right, let's wrap things up with a couple of questions that have come in. Nick is I like this question. You're very much playing to my strengths here, brother. Nick has gone to Delta Prime 84. I didn't start watching wrestling until after Bret Hart was in WCW, so I never saw his WWF run. Other than the Hart versus Michaels Iron Man match, what 3 Bret matches in the Fed should I watch to best understand what made Bret so great? So basically, you're asking me to talk lots about great Bret Hart matches. I will be here for the next 25 minutes approximately. No, I need to get wrapped up. Got the right collisions, ups and downs. But this is a great question, Nick. This is one of my favorite questions I think I've ever been asked. The Shawn Michaels match, the Iron Man match, it's a tough one to go back and watch because it is an hour of wrestling. And I mean, it's not a spoiler by this point in time, but it's just the falls are not there. It's a tricky one to watch. It's a very fun spectacle in terms of it's admirable the work that goes into it and to get a match that long. But yes, right. So we're looking for 3 recommendations. One, I'm probably not going to be able to get this down to 3 because you go back to the Hart Foundation days. The Hart Foundation is a tag team, as in not the faction, but Bret and the Anvil. And you've got the matches there against like the Bulldogs, Demolition, Strike Force, the Rougeaus, Arn and Tully when they came in, even like the Nasty Boys at WrestleMania 7. And even like at that point in time when Bret was predominantly a tag team wrestler with the Anvil, he'd still have singles matches. There's a really excellent one against Ricky Steamboat. There's some great ones against like Davey Boy Smith and Dynamite Kid or Ted DiBiase, or like some of the Rockers matches as well, and like matches against Shawn and Marty in individual singles matches. Then you've got obviously SummerSlam 91's a big one against Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig, where Bret wins the Intercontinental title. SummerSlam 92 against the Bulldog, where he drops the IC title. You got Razor Ramon at Royal Rumble 93. You got Austin at WrestleMania 13, which is one of the greatest matches in WrestleMania history. You've got the Austin matches before that in 96. There's one in, I believe it's South Africa. That's just, yeah. The matches against Owen. I mean, and there's a really great match with Bret and Owen against the Steiner brothers. And it was one of those matches I didn't see till years after it happened. It was, I believe it was a Coliseum video exclusive or something like that. So it wasn't widely available. And then just found it on the internet. I was like, oh my God, man, this is brilliant. 2 babyface teams. Just, yeah, you've got the matches. To be fair, the matches with Kevin Nash, with Diesel across 95 into 96 are really good. I would say Bret Hart, I am biased, obviously, but I would say Bret Hart got the very best out of Diesel. I'd say he got even more out of Big Kev, Big Sexy, Big Daddy Cool than Shawn Michaels did. And those two had great matches together. There's the Canadian Stampede 10-man, which if you're looking for a spectacle of just the noise, is absolutely insane. The Canadian Stampede is just bonkers, absolutely nuts. There's a really underrated rematch with Bulldog, In Your House Seasons Beatings, I believe it was, for the world title. But then, I don't know, if I think, God, I am going to be here for 25 minutes, aren't I? But no, the one match that I watch more than any other match, period, regarding anybody, any wrestler, or that one match I put on if like thinking, I need something to cheer me up. It's always Bret Hart and Roddy Piper at WrestleMania 8, so I can't not have that on here. And then another one like that as well is the Mr. Perfect match at King of the Ring 93. But then to fully appreciate that, you also need to maybe have seen SummerSlam 91 because it kind of ties into that. But King of the Ring 93 is just phenomenal. I kind of need to have an Owen Hart match on there, don't I, as well, if I'm picking 3. So I've got to have Piper. And then it's Owen at WrestleMania 10 or Owen at SummerSlam 94. I'm going to have to go Owen in SummerSlam 94 in the cage because that's, to me, still the best cage match in WWE history. I mean, you could just have the entirety of King of the Ring 93 because there's 3 matches there. There's Razor Ramon, there's Mr. Perfect, and there's Bam Bam Bigelow. And it's 3 different styles of working from Bret, 3 excellent matches, and just the way he sells the physicality throughout the tournament. And he doesn't use the sharpshooter because in the very first match, Razor Ramon stamps on his fingers, so Bret has to find other ways to win, and it's brilliant. I'm stuck here just to pick 3, but you've got a bunch of selections there, and one I would have to include, if I was going to go with 3, I'd have to get it in there somehow, is the 1-2-3 Kid match from a 1994 episode of Raw, which Sean Waltman has said is the best match of his career. And that's a match that Bret very much obviously is leading as because the 1-2-3 Kid was the plucky baby face, very lower down the card at that point in time. Bret Hart was the man. And they just have this really competitive back and forth match, to a perfect babyface match, with obviously 1-2-3 Kid being the undersized underdog against the savvy veteran world champion main event, WrestleMania main event kind of guy. And it's exceptional wrestling television. And that's an example of Brett leading the match. I mean, the Bulldog match of SummerSlam 92 is very much an example of Brett leading the match, because as we found out all the years later, Davey Boy wasn't in the greatest of mindsets at that point in time and was not quite with it. So Brett had to guide him through the whole match. So yeah, that's my 3. There's not a 3 there. There's literally about 30 matches. But yeah, there's plenty of you to dive into there. One last question I've just seen come in. I really like this one again. Brilliant, absolute genius from Steven Peters. Okay, so last time I asked even Drago versus Das Wunderkid, Alex Wright, who you got when it's Hans Gruber versus Berlin? Always appreciate the Soul Sunday news, Andrew. Oh, cheers, Steven. Thanks for your question again. Yes, there was a question a few weeks ago of even Drago versus Das Wunderkid, Alex Wright, Achtung, and I had to go with Alex Wright because, hey, why not? And this time, we've got Hans Gruber and we've got Berlin. Now, Berlin, if you're not familiar with Berlin, that was quite a brief, admittedly, gimmick of Alex Wright. So I'm liking these Alex Wright themed questions on a Sunday. See, smile on face. Putting smiles on faces. Yes, that's what I'm doing on my own face with questions about Alex Wright and yeah, 90s WCW. I mean, what would have been 99 going into 2000 was Berlin, I think. Yeah, it was a new gimmick from Alex Wright. It didn't last that long. It got very much overshadowed by, he had the Wall came in as his kind of like a sidekick, but the Wall very much overtook him on the pecking order. And also because it was a dark, brooding, techno, what are they called? Oh my goodness. I'm having a total mind blank. Trench coats. There we are. There was a trench coat. He had a new hairstyle, a little goatee. I know in years since he said it was basically supposed to be inspired by kind of gothic vampire characters, or some people at the time saw something totally different with that character. And also it suffered a lot because of the look, the trench coats, because it was around the time of Columbine, I guess it would have been. And so the character got pulled off TV for a little bit. So Berlin didn't quite work out for Alex Wright. But could Berlin take Hans Gruber? I'm going to say yes. I'm going to give Berlin the win. Going to give him that rub, brother. Going to give him the rub this morning, which can be taken in very different ways. And on that note, I am going to get out of here. Like I said, I've got ups and downs for Collisions, all right. Simon Miller will be here tomorrow with the video version of Collision Ups and Downs. But yes, I'm Andrew Pollard here from What Culture Wrestling. This is the Solo Sunday News. Have a great rest of your weekend. And I'll be back next weekend. No, I won't. That's a lie. I'm telling Porky Pies I will not be back next weekend, but the weekend after. Yeah, have a good one. Catch you later.